What's up, fight fans? It's the TST Alyas here, back again with another banger. And today we got a very special guest because who I have is the CEO of many companies, but today he's the CEO of Off the Hook. Please welcome my boss, Mr. Dean Toole. Dean, how you doing today, sir?
What's up, brother?
I'm good, brother. Special teams, special plays, special players. First and foremost, before we start anything, how's life treating you?
Good, man. Got a lot of awesome things in the works right now that we're working on. So we're going to be super, super, super busy. You know, not that we aren't already. We're already pretty busy, but just a lot of things in the works in the pipeline to, keep taking all these things to the next level.
Let's get to the topic at hand. This Friday, second Off the Hook Boxing Series event, man. How excited are you for this Saturday?
So excited. One, we had like a very weird issue with the venue, the people that ran the venue before. We were originally, this date was on August 16th. The lady that ran the venue no longer works there anymore and never told anyone she left, so we were like trying to get back and forth with each other. No one was responding. And she finally sent me a message that said she no longer works at the arena. So then the new people took over and they didn't have us on a schedule. So like we would have all showed up on August 13th, the fight week, to prep for a show, and we wouldn't even have had an event because the venue wasn't even available. So super crazy situation, but we got it moved to October. That kind of screwed a lot of people's schedules up, especially the fighters that were like getting ready in camp, ready to compete. We wanted to have a couple more shows before the end of the year for Off the Hook, and so it kind of paused us a little bit. So just happy that we're here. It's fight week, and all those guys get to compete, so.
For sure. I'm very excited for this card. I think there's 8 total fights announced, right?
I think 9. I think we have 9 fights. I think we have like 2 amateur fights and seven pro. We have 1 pro fight we're about to announce. We have this upcoming kid, Arafa Almatari, who's making his pro debut. He has like 200 amateur fights, high on everybody's list of people coming up. He had a hand injury. We've been trying to get him active on the last event, but he was like healing a hand injury, but excited to have him be one of the people in the Off the Hook stable that we will try to develop and get to a world championship fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of world championship fight, main event, Devin Cushing versus Carlos Portillo. Devin Cushing is, trying to get to world title level, man. Third fight of 2025. Do you feel like this fight for him is the one that will take him to the next level?
I think all of them have. He's been fighting all winning record guys for probably for the past 3 years, I think, So it's not easy to find people to fight him. The boxing business is completely different than the MMA business, where you can fight 3 fights, get on the Dana White Contender Series, win, and at 4-0 you're in the UFC making great money for like an upcoming fighter. Boxing is very tough. You have to be 20-0, 21-0, 25-0 before people even know you exist. So it's a much longer, harder thing. And the people with the big undefeated records aren't fighting the other people with undefeated records because it's just not something that's happened. Everybody's trying to protect their thing. Not the case in our situation. But like I've said before, Devin was originally even on the Diaz Masvidal card. We were in talks of him fighting Frank Martin on that card. Frank Martin was 18-0 at the time. But that fight didn't end up happening because he got the call to fight Gervonta Davis. So Devin ended up fighting a 13-1 Manuel Carrera, whose only loss was to an Olympian, So our side, Devin's side, he's trying to fight the best people out there, but it's not easy to get those people to do the same in return. So he'll just keep fighting, keep taking whatever fights we can, fighting good record guys. Every fight will be another step up, another step up, another step up until we get the call that we're looking for, So I think that's going to come soon.
Yeah, and talking about lining up fights, 2025 has been the most active Devin has been since I believe like 2022. What has been the difference from this version of Devin Cushing compared to the one 3 years ago?
Well, Devin took a layoff. I think almost 4 years at one point. And it takes a while for you to get back to the absolute precise timing, everything that he had at that point. He just recently told me on the phone, I think yesterday or the day before, he said, man, he's starting to feel like like he felt then, timing wise, speed, power. Um, Obviously, the older you get, your power is going to get better and better and better. And I think he's going to start really hurting his opponents and stopping these guys, like flatlining them, And Portillo is actually very good. This is going to be a very tough test for Devin. But again, if it's not a tough test, it just shows you the level that Devin's at. Roy Jones Jr. used to say he fights nobodies, and then his response was he just made them look like nobodies. So same case here. He's fighting all winning record guys, and every fight is going to increase his rating on BoxRec, increase his rankings, and increase his visibility among other promoters or whatever that may be. But we know what we have. We know where he's going, and we're just going to be patient and make the right decisions as they come.
Yeah, he's definitely he's soon to crack the top 100 in the world at lightweight. So I'm looking forward to that. Another guy that could soon be entering the world rankings at potentially featherweight is Sabin Kura in the co-main event. He's fighting Julian Toole. How impressed have you been with him since he started fighting under the Dean Toole Promotions banner?
We love Sabin. Him and his dad are great. Um, I love how he resembles like the Manny Pacquiao. He's just fun to watch. Super exciting every time he steps in the ring, and we're super happy to have them be a part of this with us. But he's gonna be another one. He'll be 20-0, 20-0, 25-0, whatever it may be, and you just have to make the right decisions. And I think activity creates opportunity, and that's why we're keeping these guys active, consistently competing, getting used to cutting weight, fighting 4 or 5 times a year, getting everybody in that good little system. They all train Monday through Friday, no matter what. They fight on Saturday. They're in the gym Monday. There's no time off, and everybody's getting ready for the next fight. Especially Sabin, he has the Filipino support for any person that competes has always been incredible. So I think that's also going to play into his favor big time. And we just got to put more eyeballs on Sabin, and he'll get the same opportunities. But and Sabin can fight at 126. Maybe he said he could potentially even fight lighter than that. So he's also going to be in a good weight class area for big money fights. And I think he'll have a huge following behind him, and can't wait to watch him fight again this Saturday night.
It's funny talking about the business of boxing because most people, when they hear, when they're going to get the big fight, they just mean the fight in general. But the situation has to be right because, you've probably seen, a lot of fighters can get like big name fights, but it would be like on a week or 2 weeks notice, not a full training camp. And really, the odds are not in their favor. So the big fight is not really just the big name. It has to be the right situation. And with Sabin, it feels like he's almost there. And he's talked to me, he probably talked to you too, about wanting to fight at 126 or even 122. How important was it to, make sure that he was able to get to fight at that ideal weight on this event?
Super important. I think it's with all of the guys. Some people you may not want to cut because you don't want to really do that to your fighter, etc. But doing it consistently makes it easier. And sometimes you get comfortable making weight at a heavier weight. I think his last couple fights, he's fought at 35, maybe 40, 35, 30. That can also mentally in your brain be like, oh, I'm a lot more comfortable fighting here because it's not hurting you to cut the weight on fight week. So then the next time, if you do take a fight at 126, when you get to 135 and you're like, damn, I got 9 more pounds to go. It was great fighting at 35. It was great fighting at 30. I still have to go, I still have 4 more pounds to go. So I think those are the kind of situations where, activity, fighting somebody at the same weight. He's in the same situation as Devin. Like people aren't just lining up to fight Sabin. Like these 15-0 guys are like, oh, let me fight Sabin. It'll be a 15-1 guy. Some guy who made the wrong decision in his career with people that didn't manage his career correctly will be like, oh, I'll fight Sabin because his career is already tarnished with that loss. So those are the type of people that'll be raising their hand to fight Sabin, but that does nothing for our situation. Sabin goes and beats a 15-0 or 15-1. It's already hard enough to get him a fight. Then we're never going to be able to get him a fight after that. People ask Devin, they ask Sabin, I'm sure the same question. When are you going to go fight some real big fight? And I'm like, Devin's fought on 2 massive, huge pay-per-view cards already. Been paid great money, So he's already fought. He's fought sold out 18,600 people arenas. Like fought at the Pfizer Forum on the Roy Jones Pettis card. You know, the card, the Diaz Masvidal card had Danny Jacobs versus Mosley Jr. Like huge, huge, huge on the main card on pay-per-view. He's been on those cards. So he's fought under the lights on really big events. But that's not, we're not doing it for, you know, your next door neighbor who's asking when you're actually going to fight on some huge event, or when's this going to happen, because they don't understand the business, and sometimes that could be exhausting having to answer those questions. When this is the other thing too, whenever you're active in boxing and you do have a really good record, you know, these guys who may not have a promoter or may not have somebody looking out for their best interest will get a phone call on a week's notice. You know, that's what they do to guys. Hey, we need somebody to fight at 147. We'll pay you $50K to come fight this fight. You know, let's say it's Devin who's a 35er. You know, if Devin wasn't in this situation, someone's offering you $50K, the other guy has the ultimate advantage because they're going to catch you off the couch. They're going to catch you 2 weight classes above your current weight class. But that's what happens to a lot of these people coming up. It's not a good ideal situation for them. And that's something that can potentially ruin your career. A loss in boxing, done. Finito. Like whatever you made on that fight where you took that loss is your ceiling and cap of what you'll ever make again. Unless you take that loss against a Gervonta Davis or somebody at that level. But it doesn't stop what we're doing here. You know, they'll fight every other month, every 3 months, 4 or 5 times a year. I don't care. The Devin and Saban could be 25-0. They could be 28-0. It doesn't matter, as long as a lot of people aren't blessed to have that situation where they can just continue to compete actively and just await for those situations to arise. And I think they're going to happen. It's going to happen for both of them a lot sooner than that. But if they had to wait to 25-0, you know, all that does, every time they get a win, their price goes up. Their price goes up. You're 20-0. This is what you command to fight a fight like that. It's going to be different when he's 21-0. It's going to be different when he's 23-0. It's going to be way different when he's 25-0. You know, there's nothing more marketable than a 20-0 to 25-0 record, you know, and every win creates a new value is the way I like to put it. So the price goes up as the record goes up.
Absolutely. And you know, it's interesting you say that because it really is like unless you're a household name in boxing, like it is detrimental to have a loss in your career. I mean, even if you don't have a loss, the right backing is needed. Like look at Prince Albert Bale. He's a undefeated lightweight prospect who doesn't have a promoter and he's a free agent, but none of these guys want to fight him because he's a high risk, low reward type of guy. And you know, it sucks that it's kind of like that for guys who are kind of already building momentum. One guy that's going to start building momentum is another Cushing, Dylan Cushing, who's making his pro debut this Saturday. Talk to me about his matchup.
Well, this is his first pro fight. I think he's going up in weight just to take this fight. You know, it's going to happen in the beginning of your career. You just want to do whatever you can to get started, stay active. And, you know, he was fighting really tough fights as an amateur, and he was getting a little older, and it was just, hey, let's just go ahead. Let's make the move now. And especially now with Off the Hook, there's going to be 4 or 5 shows per year. So in the next couple of years, he'll be at 10-0 already, you know, and just following the footsteps of Saban and Devin. You know, I think he's got such a bright future, super fun to watch, has so many different tools, is knocking out his opponents, like knocking them out, you know, with big gloves too. So it's going to be interesting to see him wearing 8-ounce gloves in a professional boxing match. I think he's going to be super exciting, and a lot of people are going to be fans of Dylan Cushing.
Yeah, and outside of the 3 guys that I mentioned so far, what fighters should fans look out for?
We also have the return of Cash Chavez. So he's like a new upcoming amateur. I love that kid. I think he's going to do really, really big things. Hardworking kid, busts his ass. Just like a real like motivational kid. He's actually has a great social media. Gets everybody like motivated around him. And it's good to have him on our card. Excited to see him again. The kid, his name is Mo, but it's a Rafa Almatari. He's going to be someone you should definitely be on the lookout for. I mean, he's got hundreds of amateur fights. Never in my life have I had so many people turn down somebody to fight. It's insane. Like this guy's had so many people turn him down that it's crazy. and he's never even had a pro fight. Typically, any MMA dude in the world will take a pro boxing match against a debut guy. Every single person turned this guy down. It took me like 6 weeks to even get him matched up. So finally we did. So everybody will get to see him, and he's going to be another super, super bright prospect coming up. Martravius Timms, incredible. He's back. Another one that's not easy to match. This guy's taking fights at 160. He's a 135er also. He fought his last fight, I think, at 170. He did anything he can do to get a fight. It's just not easy out there. But he's hurting his opponents. And that guy, Jamal Roby, is actually a talented guy. His record may not be the greatest, but he's actually fighting a bunch of undefeated killers, So sometimes that doesn't translate. Sometimes you'll have really good guys with not the best records because they're fighting 9-0s, 8-0s, like prospects that are probably going to be world championship level fighters. And I feel like Martravius is another one that we're super happy to have fight with us, and people should definitely be on the lookout for him and don't miss his fight because, he's hurting people when he fights him. Another one was Pedro. He's not on this card. But he had such an incredible performance on the MVP card, the Jake Paul show in Orlando. I think he had fight of the night, knockout of the night, performance of the night, whatever it was. And his knockout went completely viral. He's somebody we love. We love his coaches. The Oliveira brothers are just so amazing to deal with, but great people, and can't wait to have him back as well.
Yeah, speaking of Pedro, only one fight in, it's already seemed like you already have an alumni in the list for
Yeah.
Off the Hook. And the Oliveira brothers, the history that they have in Brazil. I mean, their father was the very first Brazilian Olympian in boxing. So, the pedigree is there. Going on that, Pedro Conceição thing, you talked about it, going viral, his followers went up after his knockout win against Renny Diamante. Because you've always been an eye for talent in MMA, but does it feel good that your eye for talent has translated to boxing as well?
Well, we've been doing we've been doing amateur boxing since 2008. So we've been doing amateur MMA was illegal in Florida. All you could do was pro MMA. So we were doing amateur boxing events before we ever even called it island fights. So we had been in the boxing world. I actually owned a gym called Gulf Beach Fitness where we had former world champion Ezra Sellers was one of our boxing coaches at our gym. Smoke Gaynor, former world champion Derek Smoke Gaynor,
Legend.
Absolute legend. He was also in our gym, and Devin was in our gym, and we had actually a great crew. And every week we would go to fights, and Devin would fight, and all the other guys in the gym would compete. And ended up closing the gym because I got so busy with the fights. But boxing has always been, that's before I was an MMA fan. I was a boxing fan. Roy Jones Jr. is from Pensacola. If you ever were from this area, you were the biggest fan ever of Roy Jones Jr. Like, he's all of our GOATs, greatest of all time for us. But the Florida Boxing Commission started allowing us to do pro boxing and pro MMA on the same cards. I think that was maybe 2014, 2015. We started doing that on every card. So we've been doing boxing for a while, just for island fights, period. We've done a few different Roy Jones Jr. fights. We've done a bunch of stuff, and I've third party helped a lot of other promotions and a lot of other shows from here and all over the world. So been before Devin took his layoff or break, I was so entrenched with the boxing world and every single person, every weight class, and all the prospects coming up. We used to have a crazy list of just all these people coming up. And so I feel like we've always had the eye for that, but glad that, we have this new promotion to keep pushing guys.
Yeah, and what was the reception like from fans and investors from the inaugural Off the Hook boxing event?
Well, everybody loved it. The thing is the Island Fights amateur shows feature MMA fights, boxing fights, and kickboxing fights, and they're all absolutely fucking awesome. So our thing is we're getting so many boxers, so many people wanting to do kickboxing, Muay Thai, everything, and so many people that are doing MMA I know I've said this several times, but we had to make it separate on the pro level so we could provide enough opportunity to the people that want to compete. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, for years, there's so many people that'll compete as amateurs, and 90% of those people will never become pro. It was a very weird stat coming up, you know, like people did it. It was like a hobby for them, whatever. And then some people would turn pro. Now more and more people are turning pro and want to advance their careers. So our idea here is we want to just be able to give them, we want to be a vehicle for them, you know, and give them this platform so they can. There's a lot of people that are actually earning a great living from combat sports, from actually competing. And, you know, growing up in Pensacola, you played football, you played baseball, you played basketball. And if you were elite, you could earn a living doing so. So now we have another option. You could do boxing, you can do MMA, and soon you'll be able to do kickboxing as a professional. So I feel like that's what we're trying to do here. We want to have a promotion for each discipline and create, you know, just great opportunities for people so that they can potentially earn a living from doing so and go from an amateur and becoming a professional at whatever sport they want to do. And even for the guys that just want to compete. If you're an MMA guy that wants to take a pro boxing match, here you go. You have the opportunity to do so. So not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just providing opportunity. So we have a promotion. We have so many people boxing coming up that want to compete, and now they have an outlet to do so as a professional. And then any overflow from amateurs, because we have so many fights on our Island Fights amateur shows, we can say, hey, we can add some people to this off the hook boxing card. Oh, we can add some people to this Island Fights card, November 14th, where it's pro MMA, and we can put some amateur fights on there as well. So I think that's the beauty of what we're doing, is just providing opportunity. Since day one, that's always been our thing. We just want to provide opportunity for the athletes.
Yeah, and I interviewed Danny Garcia last week, and he just told me opportunity is key to, to success. And, going back to Pedro, I mean, you guys gave him the opportunity to fight in the States, and he made the most of it. And I was talking to the Oliveira brothers, like after MVP, and they were talking about in future off the hook events that they have other guys that they're ready for. So could we possibly see more boxers out of Brazil fight
Oh,
on
for
off the hook?
sure. Yeah, for sure. We had some weird like timing things too. I think one of their guys was scheduled to fight on a show in Brazil, a big fight that was coming up that Vitor Belfort and a bunch of people were on, and then Pedro got put on that card. A couple little things, but 100% they'll be involved and have their guys on most of our cards coming up. We're just trying to get our schedule tuned in and know and give everybody enough time in advance. So, they have really good fighters too. They have Ruben, who's 15-1,
Nasty.
118 pounder. Like, we want to get those guys active, but finding a guy to fight Ruben isn't the easiest thing in the world. Once you get to those type of records, you have to fight people with winning records, and it's not the easiest, and it's not financially the cheapest to bring those guys in to fight people like that. People have no idea. One opponent to fight somebody who's 17-0 will cost more than an entire MMA card combined, a pro card combined, just that one opponent. So it's very expensive, and it's something that we're willing to do. We just need enough time to build that card out correctly, and then put our people where we need to put them on our schedule. So. But yeah, we'll be working with the Oliveira brothers forever. And his son is the #1 pound for pound amateur in Brazil.
He just won a turn, or he just got second place at a tournament.
He's incredible. And to be one and the #1 pound for pound amateur in Brazil, to even be on that list and be on BoxRec, you have to. Those are national fights, national tournaments, huge stuff. That's the only way you're getting your amateur fights on BoxRec. So it's that kid's going to be a superstar too. So they have a lot of people in the pipeline. We just want to keep. There's so many different casinos and cities that we're in talks with right now. So Biloxi will give them 4 or 5 shows a year. Once we expand to these different markets that we're in the process of doing, like Island Fights, we have just Pensacola and Biloxi next year is 10 events. Or no, 11 events. Sorry.
Oh my
we have
gosh.
11 events just from Biloxi. So every single month we have an Island Fights event. And that's just those 2 markets. we're about to announce our other markets too, and new states that we're going to. We're haven't made the announcement. I'll make the announcement soon, but I think it's 4 more states just in 2026 that we're adding already. That's confirmed. So 11 events for island fights could easily get up to the number 20 just from island fights alone. So we're doing the same thing with Off the Hook, and then once we can get to 12 events a year from Off the Hook and do one every month, then there'll be so much more opportunity for these fighters. You know, there's way more people we can put on from Brazil. There's way more people we can put on from everywhere, and just keep these guys active and keep adding people to our roster and building out our divisions, creating champions in those divisions, and making stars.
Yeah, you're gonna make me run out of PTO in the next year. So, but dude, yeah, but it's I was not saying I was surprised, but I was a little surprised when Pedro was announced for the first show because he is the number one ranked welterweight in Brazil, and I could just imagine Ruben, who's the number one bantamweight in Brazil, who has a better record. I could just imagine, not just the matchmaking part, but just the business part of it. You've talked about having a strong boxing stable the last time we talked. Obviously, Devin, Saban, Dylan's about to be there as well. Pedro was a very strong, addition. Another guy that you mentioned was Tyrone Sprong,
Yep.
legendary kickboxer, 14-0 as a boxer, 13 KOs. What's the latest on his status?
He's back in the gym, so I'll be able to announce something hopefully soon with him. We did potentially work out a multi-fight deal, not with us, but still gives him the opportunity to still stay active and compete. So maybe he'll fight on an Off the Hook show, but he's doing a lot of stuff, man. He's also like training with the real Tarzan, so he's got a lot of cool things going on, and we'd love to have him with us. He's a super close, dear friend of mine. So anything in that world, I'll be assisting him with, whether it's with us or not. But hopefully, we'll have this multi-fight deal done, which it's already like been verbally agreed on. But yeah, we need to get him back to active. He was ranked number 2 in the world by the WBA at one point. He was scheduled to fight Usyk. Super weird situation with that. He was never gotten in any trouble, so that was like a real weird story. But nothing ever happened to him from that. And then he was scheduled to fight Andy Ruiz in Mexico City for Triller. And then you know what happened with the whole Triller situation. So he super weird thing, but also put him on a little 4-year pause. But he's the type of person right now. If he fought, if you haven't fought on BoxRec, if you haven't fought in 10 months, you're listed as inactive. So people, when you're a matchmaker or you're a promoter and you're looking for certain people to put on cards, he's probably being overlooked at this point because he doesn't have a fight on BoxRec. So I always tell everybody, it's literally my line to everybody is activity creates opportunity. He's just someone right now. If he fought anybody in the world, he would be right back into the ratings on BoxRec, listed as active, and I'm sure he would probably end up on a Riyadh season card very quick. Heavyweights are heavyweights, and they need him, especially when they have a 90% KO rate. He's 13 KOs out of 14 fights. But same situation. He'll just keep fighting until one of these monster opportunities come again, which they will. And he'll be another one that's in a great position.
Last time I talked to you, we played a game called Send Me Location. I have 2 games actually today if you have the time.
Okay.
You down?
Yeah, always.
All right. So the first game I have is called I Have All the Tools. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a question, and first thing that comes to mind. That's pretty much it. That's literally it. You're not ranking your brothers. I know you thought you were probably ranking your brothers. You're not blind ranking them. So we got this. So first question I got for you. What's one thing you would change about the business of boxing?
One thing I would change about the business of boxing.
I know there's a million, but just one.
I wish that it didn't take so long. I wish that the same situation could happen where Devin could start, obviously your first 3 fights, you're getting your feet wet, but I wish like 4th and 5th fight, you could fight somebody that could get you to a title fight from 7 to 10 fights, or 7 to 12 fights, similar to like the mixed martial arts world. I feel like if you can get to 10-0, 11-0 at that time, you should be fighting for a world title. And I wish like more people would fight tougher competition at that level.
My next question to you, because Pensacola is the home base for not just Island Fights, just your promotions as well. So, next question is, could we see an off the hook event at the Pensacola Bay Center?
Um, Potentially, I think the problem is right now is the amateur fights are shit. You've been to the last however many. They are on another level. The level of talent that we've had, that event is the vehicle to get these people to become professionals. It's also our vehicle and platform, so we know, wow, this kid is on the rise. This kid's going to be the next star. This kid's going to be the next star. Like the Colin Goodmans, the Alex Rileys, the Devin Taganos, you know, all of these different people coming up came from that show, and the fights are absolutely insane, phenomenal. We have the best people in the world coming from all over the United States now. Natalie, just all of these people. There's so many different amazing gyms and amazing people that come from all over the United States to fight on those cards. It's just situations like that. We have so many people wanting to compete, and we want to keep them active. I don't want to be a detriment to that by starting doing the pro shows again in Pensacola. And now because of that, our amateur card goes from 14 fights to 6 fights. So now I got, 8 other fights, which is 16 athletes that didn't get to compete because of that. And I want to keep these guys in rotation and keep them competing and keep building up the future of this sport, and so maybe on a pro show, if we did a pro show in Pensacola, I would just do like off the hook boxing and island fights, something cool like that. Definitely something on Island Fights 100 that's coming up next year, which is going to be insane. But yeah, I don't know. It's complicated. Florida is so expensive to do pro events now. The permit fee is quadruple every other state in the entire state. It's we can't get the commission to approve dates with officials and everything. It's just very, very hard. We were one of the only people doing pro shows in Florida way before the UFC decided to come back to Florida. And now that the UFC comes once a year and does a $15 million gate in Miami, commission doesn't need to do anything ever again except for that event. They make more money off of that event than every single event combined in the state of Florida. So, the original people who did them, happy that they're coming here. Love the UFC, but it's just not as easy booking the pro events, not in Pensacola, And then it just costs so much money to do a pro show that to just do a boxing show, we would have to combine it. We'd probably have to do like off the hook and island fights, something of that sort for sure. But
Sure.
we do plan on having our pro fights back at the Bay Center also. So
Absolutely. Next question I have. Could we eventually see a regional boxing title fought on an off the hook boxing card?
yeah, I mean that could happen. It could have happened on this one, but it'll probably be our next one for sure, probably 1000%.
Oh, I'm excited for that. And my last one, this one's an interesting one because, according to BoxRec, according to Wikipedia and stuff, Roy Jones Jr. hasn't officially retired yet. So he's still an active boxer. So my last question for you is, could we see Roy Jones Jr. retire with Dean Toole Promotions?
He did retire with us November 18th on our Island Fights. That was his retirement fight, UFC Fight Pass. Yeah, that's happened already before. It'd be cool to have it again. I love Roy. I don't care if Roy was 80. People can disagree with me. They could think I'm an idiot, but I would watch Roy Jones Jr. fight if he was 80, 100 years old. I would sit there. I'd be the first person watching him. I'd be ringside no matter where it was, if it was on my show or not. I love watching Roy fight. I love watching him spar. I love watching him hit pads. I love watching him hit a speed bag. He's my favorite boxer ever lived, always will be. And yeah, if he wanted to do that again, we would more than welcome it. But if Roy was gonna fight again, I'd want it to be so beneficial for him that especially in a financial situation, that it'd be the greatest thing in the world for him, to set him up for, his kids, type of money, So
I forgot that he did actually have a retirement fight. It wasn't it like a was a corner stoppage after the first round or something. He like almost borderline knocked the guy out or something. I I think I
Yeah,
remember that fight. I remember that
yeah.
fight.
Oh man,
Uh,
what was his name? Yeah, I forget which fight it was, but
I do remember that fight.
I
That
think it
was
was like 2018, the end of 2018. It was labeled Roy's retirement fight, you know. And I think
listen.
and then he fought a couple times after that. He fought Mike Tyson. He fought Anthony Pettis. You know, we always, man, we wanted to do him versus Anderson Silva for so
Oh
long.
my gosh.
Uh, you know, and there were so many times where it could have been made, and it would have been the most massive fight in the world. Uh, you know, even that, like, I think people that are both close in age like that, I'm not opposed to those things. Like a 25-year-old fighting a 50-year-old is completely different, but like a 46 fighting a 48 or 48 fighting a 50, like, why not? You know, Roy's always said to everybody in every interview, like, I'm not going to get hurt from fighting at 50 years old. I if I was ever damaged from boxing, the damage has already been done, and it's from years of sparring and competing, etc. Like, it's not from me fighting that night in a fight, you know. So that's what he's always said. But yeah, man, I love watching Roy fight. So if he ever wanted to compete, I just hope it would be so he could make the most of it financially for sure.
For sure. So that was I have all the tools. Next game we have is championship rounds. Now, I'm going to give us a specific topic and then you just say the first thing that comes to mind. That's
Okay,
literally it. I got about 5 topics and that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I have is Canelo versus Crawford.
Crawford.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly,
I said it to everybody since it's been announced that it was going to be easy. Everybody thought I was an idiot. I even posted the day of the fight. Crawford is going to beat Canelo by decision, 8 rounds to 4. Go look at my timestamp. Check it out. I called it for every single person ever. This guy has been, for the last 3 years, he's been gaining weight. He knew he was bigger than Canelo. This guy wasn't calling out David Benavidez, who's an absolute monster, the biggest dude ever. You know, he might as well, he's even says it, he might as well go to heavyweight to take a fight like that. But he knew Canelo's size. Canelo fought at 152 pounds when he fought Floyd Mayweather, you know?
yeah.
And uh, it's, I just didn't know, I don't think he'd be able to do it. Canelo and Crawford's not getting younger either, you know? So,
He's older.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was cool, but I wasn't so excited about that fight like everyone else was. I honestly thought, okay, this is kind of a super fight. You know, I'm thinking of Crawford, who was fighting at 140, who was at 35, who's fighting at 40, but he also wrestled. You know, Crawford wrestled. Most boxers run way more than MMA fighters, right? So they don't cut. I don't. I feel as they don't cut as much weight. But if you've ever wrestled, and you wrestled every Thursday in high school, or you had to cut weight every single week, you were so used to cutting weight and keeping the weight off. I feel like Crawford probably used to cut a lot of weight when he fought down at 35 and 40. So I think he was, every single time we seen them in a face-off, he looked bigger than Canelo. Canelo was obviously thicker, but he knew what he was doing. You know, and you're not calling somebody out if you don't think you could win the fight. You know, and I think he was super confident, knew he was going to win all along. I knew he was going to win all along, and then it just showed it that night.
Yeah, I had Canelo originally, and then I started interviewing every single not every single world champion, but like multiple world champions. Everybody said Crawford, so I was like, you know what? What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna go against the pros. So I was like, I knew Crawford had the skill. It was just the weight. But then when they were in the clinch and he manhandled Canelo, I was like,
I
this fight
still
could.
thought Canelo looked good. Like, you're in there with a guy who's going to be much faster than you because he's coming up in weight. Your speed is going to be better than those people. It's like when Frankie Edgar fought at 155. Like, no
Oh
one could
yeah,
hit him. He was so fast, and he was hard to hit, hard to hold down, and he was like literally walking around at 148 pounds, like making 155. He could have fought at 35 if that division existed back then, or 25 probably even, and can't even imagine him at that. But he always had like this speed advantage over everybody, you know. And I feel like it was the same thing. Look at Mayweather. Mayweather never cut weight. He fought at 154 and walked at 47. You know, like, I don't know. I feel like Crawford knew what he was doing, but it was a great fight. Glad it happened. So,
For sure. Round two, cheat days.
me? Oh,
Yeah.
like I wish they were every day.
I remember. I don't know if it was the last off the hook event where you said you like fasted for 96 hours or
A
something like
hundred,
that.
a
A
hundred on the
hundred
dot.
hours, dude. I try to do that for 24 hours, and I thought I was about to die. I thought I was having heart palpitations. I was like, dude, this is not for me. I'm about
I
to.
do 24 hours every day, so I don't
I
eat again until like if I eat at 3 o'clock yesterday, I'll eat today at 3 o'clock again, and then I'll eat from a window. I just started this, but um, once you can get in that habit, it becomes way easier. And it was super hard, but once I got to like 48 hours and 36 hours, I wasn't even hungry at the 100-hour mark. I was just so irritable because we had some weird situations with people not making weight, and I was like taking it out on everybody else, and I didn't want to be like that on fight night. And I was still kind of like just felt like I was a little out of it, and I don't want to be like that on fight night. And then if I broke my fast, I didn't want to break my fast with a celebratory, post fight drink. That's probably not the best way to break a 100-hour fast. So,
just saying that drink's gonna hit instantly on a 100-hour fast.
instant, yeah, literally instantly.
All right, round three, split decision.
Um, Love it. I think it's great. I think no one else is doing what you're doing right now. No one else is covering it the way you're covering it. No one else is covering it on the, regional level, national level, without like obviously you're covering it on a bigger scale too. But this is what boxing needs. Like, first of all, we need promotions that are going to consistently do events. That's why I think what MVP is doing is amazing. They put on great fights, and it's literally showcasing upcoming prospects, which is awesome, and they have a network like DAZN behind them to do so, and a guy with millions of followers like Jake. So what they're doing is great, but this is exactly what's needed. No one's doing what you're doing at all whatsoever. There might be some people out there, but I feel like you're going to have a niche on the entire market because no one has thought to even do that. So, it's great what you're doing. I love it.
As much as that's appreciated, I appreciate the boxers that I'm able to interview. I think those are the ones that really need the spotlight. Those are the
For
ones,
sure.
even if they're on a major promotion like MVP fighting, like if you go to these events, a lot of them are not going to interview them right after the fight. That's very unconventional in boxing. They have press conferences and stuff like that. You see in MMA, there's tons of post fight interviews. They even have post fight media scrums, but in boxing, especially when it's not like a big event, it's not going to really be like that. So I just want to give the platform. No matter, every fight matters. That's what I just want to prove, that every fight matters. And that's the only way to grow the sport, is to show that. So I appreciate the words, but I appreciate the boxers that I'm able to give the platform to.
Yeah,
So
and a lot of people, they go to those events hoping they can interview Jake or the people that may be at the event, and it's good that you're there for the fighters. Like, that's who needs the platform, and they need you. And I feel like it's good on so many levels, and no one else is doing it, and I think that's why this is going to thrive.
appreciate that. We're gonna go to round four though. This is MMA rounds, by the way, I guess now. So the growth of combat sports in the Southeast. It originally was the growth of your empire, but I think saying the Southeast will definitely be better, because your empire just is not just Pensacola. It's North Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, the whole state of Florida. The growth of combat sports.
Well, if you've been to any of the island fights in the past 4 years, then you'll see it's phenomenal. Dawson Blue versus Guy Spong, a 15-year-old versus 16-year-old at the last island fights 2 weeks ago, was like, if that doesn't show you the future is bright, I don't know what else will. Colin Goodman is 20 years old. I think he's a 2-0 or 3-0 MMA record, and was fighting for a title because we believe in his skill set, and just know what we're watching there. Alex Riley's 28, 8-2, should probably be turning pro soon. Definitely should, but like the level of fights, competition, improvement, skill set, all the gyms, everybody, like from jiu-jitsu to wrestling to every single part of it, the striking, it is phenomenal. The new breed of athletes coming out is going to be, I don't know, I can't really explain it, but like UFC and all these different places, like I don't even know how the fights, they're just, I feel like the fights, I'm kind of scared that the guys will be so good collectively that maybe the fights won't be that awesome because they're so good. They'll just be like stalemating each other because they're so good. Everybody can strike, everybody can wrestle, and everybody has jiu-jitsu. Like, it's when you're so equally talented, either that or you'll still obviously have like some guys who are going to be super dominant and good at every single thing. But I think the days of the wrestlers or the days of the high-level jiu-jitsu guys or the days of a really good striker will be like a thing of the past because now it's everybody has every tool and they're great at everything. So I love what's happening in combat sports, not just with our stuff, but you have so many other promotions. Combat Night, which does a show pretty much everywhere in Florida, almost every other weekend. Different promotions like that are a catalyst for, all of these guys to have opportunity and get to the next level, and just proud to be a part of it in any type of way. But it is at an all-time high and it'll only get better.
Absolutely. And final round. What can fans expect this Saturday at Off the Hook Boxing Series 2?
Awesome fights always, and you'll get a chance to see a lot of upcoming prospects, people that are going to fight for world championships, people that will be some of the biggest names in the sport of boxing, and you get to see them live 10 feet away in the flesh before you have to watch in a $3,000 seat, floor seat on a pay-per-view somewhere. So now's the time to be able to watch these guys compete and get to know them and follow these prospects on their journey. And there's a lot of them coming up that night. Again, Dylan Cushion making his pro debut, Mo finally getting his first pro fight as well, and Martravius Timms, Saban, Devin's super tough fight. So we'll see what happens, man. We're just putting on good fights consistently, and hope everybody comes out. The doors open at 6. Fights start at 7. They'll be free on the Off the Hook Boxing YouTube page. And see everybody on Saturday night.
That was Championship Rounds, and that's all the time we have for this show. Dean, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with me today, sir. And I'm looking forward, as well as the fight fans, to this Saturday for Off the Hook Boxing number 2.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.